that so it's clean. Hi everyone, it's Ketan Makwana here from Enterprise Lab. I hope you're well and welcome to episode 3 of the League of Disruptors Show. Wow, what a day we had yesterday. Some great guests in. We had Warren Ryan and Jamie Smart. But today is a new day. Today is going to be an explosive day. Today we have none other than Jamie Alderton in the house. Jamie's a powerhouse of what he does. I met Jamie for the first time back in March, I think it was, at the Gary Vaynerchuk event. And since then I've just seen him exploding into so many different scenes, and I thought, I've got to get him on the show. So Jamie, it's really good to see you here. Thanks for spending the time or investing the time to come on the show. So, absolutely, it was. Oh, that podcast was great fun. Great fun. So, for those of you that don't know Jamie Alderton, he runs a podcast called Mindset and Muscles. Mindset and Muscles. He's got, he's a #1 transformational coach. He is one of the UK's top models when it comes to physiques, and I'm sure if you go and check out some of the images, he's a very shredded man. We're going to be talking a little bit about discipline and stuff like that very, very shortly as well. But outside of this, he's got Grenade Fit. He launched Grenade Fit and the story that we're going to be talking about is that 7 months transformation to bring Grenade Fit to life, and that's just exploded into the scene. And you've also got a bar as well, don't you? You've got a protein energy bar that you that called Grenade. Perfect. I think I was just sold on other people when they talk about it more than anything else. I was just like, wow. So Jamie, before we kind of go into things, it would be great for you to tell people who you are, your background, a bit about you, what you've been up to, and how you got to where you are today. To tell people who you are, your background, a bit about you.
I really stopped enjoying it. I really saw that I wanted more from life than the army. I knew that there was something out there for me, but I wasn't sure what it was. I worked in IT for a year. I got a great opportunity to go and work in the Middle East, in Kenya and Somalia, working with the UN, which was fantastic. And 2012, I was kind of lost because I had this great job working abroad, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. I just felt like I was, as you say in the army, marking time. I was just trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to do. During that time, I had been competing in natural bodybuilding shows. I had a passion for fitness, but I never looked at it as something that I could see myself doing as a job. It was a very stupid thing that I said, and a lot of it came down to me not thinking that you should turn a passion into a job, because I thought you'd end up resenting it. And I have met a few people where that has been true, but it's not really the ultimate thing, because if you are genuinely passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah.
And one thing that happened to me in 2012, the worst / greatest thing that ever happened to me, I got made redundant. I was not expecting it. I just bought a nice 3-story house for my wife. I was expecting to stay in this really nice, well-paid contract job for another couple of years, build up a bit more capital. And no, on a flight back from Kenya, back to the UK, not having a clue what it was that I wanted to do. And I was completely lost. I really was. I was like, what am I going to do? And I did something which I never, ever done before in my life. And that was, I got a pen and paper out and I started writing things down. I started writing down what I enjoyed doing, what I was good at, and what I could see myself doing for the rest of my life. And it all geared towards personal training. There was one problem, however. I just put every single bit of saving into this deposit for a mortgage. So I had nothing, and I had about 6 weeks to find something else. I'm going to have some problems here. Luckily, I did have a credit card. Luckily, I did have lots of credit on that credit card, should we say. And I was like, right, I'm going to do this PT stuff. You know, I'm going to become a personal trainer. And I did a 6-week course. I found a studio. I whacked about £16,000 on my credit card. And then I got to work. I got to work in my own private studio, thinking, right, how do I want to work with clients? How do I want to serve clients? Because I'm not happy with the way that people are doing things. And I wasn't happy because this is the reason why I didn't want to get into personal training. Because I'd go into a gym and I'd see all these miserable people counting reps and not enjoying their job. And I was like, why do I want to do that for a job? However, I had an opportunity now to do something different. What I had the opportunity to do was to do it on my terms, do it how I thought that people needed to train. And it was very similar to the Makwana principles, where it was more than just the hour in the gym. It was what you were doing, more than just that 1 hour. It's more understanding what you're doing with that other 23 hours, with your sleep, with your nutrition, and most importantly with your mindset, the kind of thought process that got you into that state where you're like, I need to do something with my physique. Yeah. And that's what interested me. Because it was no longer about counting reps. It was speaking to people. It was asking them, how's your day been? What are you eating? What are you frustrated with? What are your struggles? And people were quite taken aback because they were like, well, no one's ever asked me that before. But since you have asked, And what happened is, as people started to tell me their problems, I started to come up with the solutions. Yeah. And I started to provide a service bigger and better than most personal trainers because I was going above and beyond. Now, what happened with that is within 4 years, I built up this amazing physical business and online business, and I was sold out within 6 months of the business because I was literally transforming people, transformation after transformation after transformation. And what was funny is this studio was on an industrial estate in the countryside next to a prison.
Next to a prison, did you say?
Next to a prison, I had no passing trade whatsoever. So everything that I did was word of mouth. I was this crazy little gym on this industrial estate that gets people in shape, and I started to create a buzz around that. Going on from that, 3 years later, which was last year, I closed up that. I had the option of living the whole laptop lifestyle, which every entrepreneur likes to do, or doing the dream that I've always wanted to do, and that is to have my own gym facility and to do what I'm doing now, just on a bigger scale. In came my idea for Grenade Fit, and July this year, after 18 months of ups and downs, as you do when it comes to getting planning permission and building gym facilities, we opened up. So we've been open now for 6 months, and I'm absolutely loving every minute of it.
Well, I've got to say, do you know what, a phenomenal journey. And first of all, I've got to start off by apologising to our audiences, because I forgot right at the beginning when I was introducing you in to put your volume up. So everyone was like, I can't hear him. So apologies, I got the volume up just on time. We will be recapturing some of the stuff that you probably didn't hear on the audio a bit earlier. So, make sure that we go there. But what a journey, coming onto this basis where you lost your job. I was in the same kind of position. I lost my job as well, but I wasn't really in those kind of circumstances where you're actually traveling back from another country, knowing that you haven't got work, knowing that you've only got 6 weeks, and it's what's going through your head. I think all the way through that process is, what do I do? Where do I go? What do I do? Where do I go? It seems a lot about us, about me. It's very inside. Was there a part of your thought processes when you kind of on that journey back from Kenya to the UK, where you thought, well, what, I know you said you got that pen and paper out and you started to think, what do I enjoy? What am I good at? When did it kind of emerge that it's not about you and it's all, the things that are happening around you? When did that come into play, really?
Well, I think when I opened the studio, I didn't expect it to turn the way it did. I just wanted to pay my bills. That was it. I'd never run a business in my life. I'd never looked at anything, and I most certainly didn't know if I was doing it right, because I was just this guy in the studio on this industrial estate. So I didn't know what any other personal trainer was doing, and in a way that was fantastic, because if I had gone to a gym facility and potentially seen what everyone else was doing, that could have affected my mindset, because I could have looked at them and said, well, they've been doing this longer, therefore they know what they're doing, which I know now would have set me up for a complete failure, because I wasn't happy with the way that people were doing stuff. What actually happened then 3 years later is I realized that I was doing things very different to other people, and then I set on a journey to find out what was I doing differently, because to me it just came naturally. It just, it's like people pay you money, give them, over deliver, give them great value. That to me is common sense, but obviously not to the average person, because they're looking at things in a different light. They're looking at things as, I can't wait to clock off, when in actual fact my wife's yelling at me saying, put that laptop down. But then that also comes with the passion, and for me it was a case of, I love people. I'm fascinated by people, and I'm fascinated by the psychology of why people do what they do. This is what I've really come to love with business, because it's, business is all about people. What really changed the game for me is the way that I thought about things. Now, where that came was about a year after I had run my business. It was becoming successful. I'd just competed the first year. I'd become European champion, so that was great, and it was a great selling tool. But my wife became pregnant, and the first thing she said in January was, I'm pregnant. Second thing I said is, that means I don't get to compete this year. And so, is that all you think about? Anyway, I was just like, okay, so I've got a new thing. And it was great, because what it enabled me to do is take my kind of fitness model head off and focus on her and the baby. So I had a kind of excuse not to be in the best shape ever. And I kind of took the mick with it and decided to get pregnant with my wife. So I, in that year, put on 45 pounds. Okay. And I went from around 190 pounds to 232. It was a very enjoyable year. Yeah, lots of Guinness, lots of food, and it was the happiest year ever. Our daughter was born in August. I was a very, very jolly guy, and it was fantastic. But also one thing happened with my business. It doubled. Now, I had preconceived ideas when it came to personal trainers, in the fact that you had to look a certain way in order to build your business. Because I'd relied on my fitness model career so much on the way that I looked, not on the value that I give. Now, what happened when I saw that I was out of shape, I wasn't this fitness model, yet I was getting my business even better, I was trying to understand why that was. And what happened was, the reason that I was a good competitor was my level of selfishness was pretty high. But what happened with my daughter that came along, and the fact that I wasn't too focused on myself and my physique, it became a lot of selflessness. Started focusing on other people. And what happened is, when I put more energy into other people, they got more success, which in turn gave me success. Which kind of a light bulb moment, because as I started to read more, as I started to learn more with regards to entrepreneurship and business, I started to learn that these things, your success will grow by helping others succeed. And it was just that kind of light bulb moment for me, where it's not about me. It's not about what I want from this world. It's about what I can do to this world, what I can do to impact and change people's lives. Because just me being able to be me and do what I do is fantastic. The fact that I can wake up in the morning, come to my own gym facility, do things on my terms, and be able to impact and change people's lives of doing that, I'm pretty happy. So it's now my mission to say to people that they can do that too. And that's where the whole social media element comes in for this, because I enjoy it so much, because I'm just a normal person. I tell people this time and time and time again. I'm no one special whatsoever. I'm just a person that's passionate about what he does, that loves what he does, and has happened to have turned it into a career.
Well, no, it's fascinating, and do you know what? There are some bits that you've just picked up on. I've got a question. I think hopefully that's come through from Sam Johnson that says, Jamie, how would you say your relationship with your wife and your daughter is with regards to your working hours? Do they give you the support and space that you need to succeed? And I think you've pretty much answered that question within that. I think, what happens here, and I suppose what I'm picking up from this is your personal life and your business life are both the same. That you are the same person in that respect. You're giving value. You're trying to help people succeed. You're invested in everything that you're doing here, rather than kind of I have a box here which is my 9 to 5, and then a box here which is my sort of 6 to 9, or whatever it is in that respect. And it becomes more and more institched as you go along, because naturally you need the support of your family, like your wife and your child, and the fact that, okay, fair enough, your child is very young and they may not totally understand, but as they grow, it's so important, because it's like a big weight lifted off your shoulders. Is that not, is that how you feel with the fact that, now they understand what it is you're doing? You've kind of engaged and intertwined both lives together, that it works for you?
It does. I mean, with that has come with my own kind of transformational journey as well.
Yeah.
I'm very fortunate that I've had the support of my wife. I was in the military for 7 years, so she's used to me disappearing for many, many months and coming back, which is a benefit. We like different things. We have our own wants and needs, but then that works really, really well together. So having that support there is important.
Yeah.
And it's, at the end of the day, it's like people say, how do you balance it? But any kind of thing with balance, sometimes it sways one way, sometimes it sways the other. You will have times where you can systemize and create things and have more time, and there are times where you have no time. This year it's been about no time, because my wife and myself have understood that I'm building a business. I'm putting 100 hours a week in, trying to find the best way to systemize and do things, but then that's not forever. And this comes down to finding more about myself. When I first started as a fitness model, when I used to go to these fitness expos, I used to take my wedding ring off, and it was a case of, I'm not Jamie Alderton, I'm this Grenade J fitness model.
Yeah.
So it was like a split personality. And I see a lot of people that do that on social media. They're this person on social media, and then they're this person in real life. And what I say to people is, no, you are the same person. So that's obviously what made me realize that when it comes to self-awareness, when it comes to building my business, just be you. People, I'm not trying to be anything else. I swear I drink vodka on weekends.
You said you're a Guinness fan, right? So you're a man after my own heart.
Almost. What time is it? Right, Guinness time is December, so we have about a week until it's Guinness time. So, but I have a photo shoot on the 10th, so I've got to delay that for another sort of 2.5 weeks. But there is nothing better in December than having your first Guinness, almost as much as maybe your 6th or 7th. But anyway, what I'm trying to get at is I'm a normal person. I'm very passionate about what I do. I have a talent, and my talent is obviously getting in pretty damn good shape. I've competed at a British, European and world level. I've played the game very high with regards to competing. But now what my focus is I still like jumping on stage, but it's to simplify that down and go, okay, this is the very extremes of it when it comes to doing what it is that you're doing. How do I simplify that down and have it and turn it into more of a lifestyle choice? Now, the only way that I can do that is show people that I am a normal person. If they're just seeing pictures of me shredded all the time with this six-pack everywhere looking great, they're going to look at that and go, that's never achievable. I'm never going to look like that, because that guy probably eats out of Tupperware boxes. He doesn't have a family. He lives in the gym. But then what happens when they see that I'm working, I have a 3-year-old daughter, I probably only train 2 or 3 times a week. They see a glass of Grey Goose, they're like, what's he doing? Because it's intriguing, because they're like, the trouble with people is they're very black and white. It's either you're the super strict broccoli eating rip person, or you're the don't care cookie eating this. It's like, no. It doesn't need to be like this. It can be like this. This is called balance. This is called understanding your limits. This is developing those habits that actually contribute to your health, but also having a few little bad habits that help you chill out a little bit, such as Grey Goose vodka and Skittles. But it's all a case of that balance game, and that's what I try and teach people. It's like fitness and that can be very, very serious, but it needs to have a benefit to your life, not a hindrance. But sometimes, as with a lot of businesses, as with a lot of anything, you need to go to that extreme to understand that you need to back off the pedal. And more is not always better. When I first started competing, I was like, right, I need to do a better diet. I need to keep it cleaner. I need to do more cardio. I need to do more weights. And then you find out that there is a ceiling for that, and you're doing too much now.
Yeah.
It's that kind of risk versus reward. You've got too much risk now, and you're not getting any reward out of it. And then what you find is if you back off a little bit, and this is with your business, this is what I found out this year, and with your body, that you have that stability and you actually grow more. This year, I've had the best. I've been the leanest that I've ever been, the strongest that I've ever been, and the fittest that I've ever been. Yeah, my focus hasn't been on the gym. It's been on business.
Nice.
And it's because I've developed those subconscious habits which contribute to my health now, which is fantastic. And now I'm finding my way in the business. And the only way that I've found that is by working 100 hours a week, doing like 12 days straight working, crashing, thinking that I'm doing the whole Gary Vaynerchuk hustle thing when I'm not. I'm not working smart, so I'm just working too hard. It took me a holiday to realize that I need to chill out. I need to get my creative juices back by getting away from the business and focusing on it. And now suddenly all these ideas have sprung to mind. I'm excited because we're going to have a fantastic year next year, and I'm myself again. But I had to take it to that extreme level to understand to back off, and I did it with my body. I did it with my business too.
It's amazing, and I just want to kind of pull back to a couple of things that you said a bit earlier in regards to perception. In the fact that you are giving a lot of value in the fact that where you're differentiated your model is you're asking and engaging with your clients and your audiences at that time. You're asking them what they eat and how they feel and all these kind of things, something that they weren't quite used to. But there's part of the industry as well, which especially in personal development and transformation, where sometimes the professional themselves can be prone to be seen not to be practicing what they preach. Now, whilst you talk about this whole extreme of you can't just show that you're shredded in that respect, otherwise people kind of disbelieve that they can get to that and they create their own perception. How important do you say it is for anyone that's in an environment or an industry where they work with people that they demonstrate the behaviors and the practices that they preach?
To me, it's the most important, and this is the problem with a lot of people's own self-confidence, because confidence comes with achievement. So once you've achieved something yourself, it becomes a lot easier to have the confidence to talk about it. The reason that I'm quite happy to be out of shape sometimes, not all the time now, because obviously my habits are good, and I do stay in really, really good shape year round, but I'm happy in myself because of the achievements that I've had. I'm happy to talk about body composition, nutrition, training, and mindset because I've achieved so much with it. And, I've managed to practice more than I actually preach. So it makes things easier. A lot of people, such as Gary Vaynerchuk, as he says as well, he said he doesn't talk about anything that he's not confident about talking about. And it's the same that if people ask me a question on something that I don't know, if you ask me a question on cars, on engineering, on mowing the lawn, my wife will probably tell you about that. I am the worst person in the world to ask because I don't know. I stick to what I know and like. But it is so important with a trainer, with anyone in a business, to practice what they preach. At the end of the day, if you're helping people grow their business and yet you don't have a business, then something's called into question there. It's just like, well, who are you to tell me what I need to do? Yeah. It's always a huge argument with a lot of people though, because the argument with a personal trainer is, do you need to be in shape to be a personal trainer? And as with any question, it always depends. You have many different types of personal trainers. You have many different types of clients. If I am preparing people to jump on a physique stage, do I need to have jumped on a physique stage in order for me to prep them? No, but I think most of the clients would like to know that I've been through what they're going through, because that will incentivize them to stick to the plan of action that I'm telling.
Yeah, and I just want to come to this point. It's really important because I think one of the things that I see from you, Jamie, is that you don't act as a business owner. You don't actually treat your business as a business. You look at it from a customer's point of view, as if you were a consumer in your own business, and you ask yourself those honest questions. Is it something that I would buy for myself? Is it something that, am I giving the kind of stuff that I would expect to get back? And I think sometimes there are a lot of people that come into business and they almost go into business mode and think, right, people will buy because of this, and they forget that human intervention, that engagement. They themselves are consumers of products and services, and they want to be sold to and pitched to in a particular way, or treated in a particular way. So it's fascinating to see that, what you've done here, and very, over unconsciously and then consciously, is that it's not that you put the customer first. It's actually you look at your own business as if you're a customer in your business, and I think that's so powerful.
I think as well, I mean, this goes against what a lot of people say, especially in the business world, especially in the entrepreneur world. And one thing that comes up all the time is surround yourself. You're the average of the 5 people that you spend that you spend the most time with. Yeah. Because what happens is when you spend your time with successful people, you become more successful. With regards to personal training, with regards to that kind of coaching, sometimes that's not a good thing to do, because what happens is when you're constantly surrounding yourself with like-minded people, you lose sight of the people that actually need your help, because you assume that they know what you know. Now, this is the problem that I see with a lot of personal trainers, because they are overcomplicating things, because they're asking their friends what they think of their products. And the problem is that it's not their peers that are going to be buying their products.
Yes.
So they might think it's great, but when they put it out on the market, they're wondering why no one's buying it, because it's just too confusing. I did a video a couple of years back where I walked around Chichester here and I asked 15 people what protein was. Only one person could tell me what protein was. And this is the thing, is that people are overcomplicating things. And when you start hanging around with people who actually have the problems and start listening to them and looking at it, you understand that, and you're like, right, I'm making things too difficult. I need to make things easier. And it's something that I say all the time, is that I look at the technical stuff and then I get my crayons out and then I put the crayons on, because it's not for my customer, it's for me. It's like I need to explain this as if I would explain to a 5-year-old, so I understand it, so I can articulate it better to other people. Yeah. And that's something that I've always done, and something that I've spoke about before, and it's something from a guy called Ty Lopez. It's called like the 33% rule, and I don't like it being called the 33% rule, because it's 3 things, and 3 times 33 is 99. So I want to kind of change that to the kind of 3rd rule. Now, one thing I notice with a lot of people is they spend a lot of their time with like-minded people, which, as I've said before, affects their business, because it doesn't sometimes push them up, and it makes them also certainly doesn't make them understand what their customer needs. So the way that Ty spoke about is that you spend a third of your time with people less successful than you. And I don't mean go and talk to tramps in the park. What I'm talking about is your clients or customers that need your help, that aren't at a level of experience that you're at. Spend a third of your time with those, spend a third of your time with your peers and the people that you can network and communicate with, and then spend a third of your time with people playing a bigger game than you, because that's where you're going to be motivated, that's where you're going to be incentivized, and that's where you're going to get your better ideas to push further.
So that's where your kind of stretch goals come into as well, basically. So that's what's going to stretch you out there. Okay, look, I want to get some questions as well. We're already half an hour way in. Ian, Benny, Jamie, I run as well as work out. Run a day, work out a day, run a day, etc. Will running distance, i.e. half marathons, lead me to losing the bulk I've built over the period of time? So this is a fitness and health question.
So a lot of people look at things as I said, as black or white. So they'll go running equals less muscle, building muscle equals creating muscle. When in actual fact, it's not the muscle loss or the creating muscle that you have. It's the determining factor of whether you gain or lose it, which is actually calories. So the question you ask is, will I lose the muscle? But when you understand that if you are maintaining a calorie surplus or a maintenance, that you won't lose that, then the question changes. It becomes less about will I lose it? It's like, well, no, it won't be, provided that your calories are sufficient. So what I would say from yourself there, if you are running and training, understand what your weekly calorie expenditure is, understand how many calories that you are burning on your runs, and make sure that you're accounting for that in your nutrition. My prime example is at the moment, on this Friday, I'll be pushing a 140 kilogram weighted sled for 24 hours. I have been I have been training, I've been building up to the training, so I started with a couple of hours on it. Last week I did 8 hours on Monday, 8 hours on Friday. I burned about 5,500 calories during the training session, and I'm still dropping about a pound a week on my fat loss diet. And that's because what I've done is I've looked at how many calories that I burn, 5,500. I look at the maintenance calories that I'm on, which is about 2,600, 2,700. I combine them together and I get a very, very tasty day of about 8,000 to 8,500 calories whilst at a maintenance stage, because I'm replenishing the calories that I've lost from that training. This is where a lot of people go wrong with regards to running, especially half marathons and that. If you're running a half marathon, you're maybe potentially looking at about 2 hours running. So averaging about 800 calorie burn an hour, that's 1,600 calories during a run like that. So you need to add that on top of your calories, especially if you know that the fundamentals of making sure that you sustain and build muscle are that you are at a maintenance stage of your calories consistently or slightly in a surplus. So the answer to your question, beating around the bush, is no, provided that your calories are sufficient.
Well, there you go, Ian. I think that's amazing. We've got another question in here from Ketan. How did you really get your business to explode? I do the same thing, but I want that explosive moment. So I think what Nazia is talking about here is she's in the same sort of industries, but I suppose you could define what explosive means as well, actually. So how did you get your business to explode, and what advice do you have for Nazia?
I think it's what I call tip of the iceberg syndrome. So a lot of people see this explosion as this tip, but they don't actually understand everything that happened underneath. A lot of people look at overnight success, but they don't realize that it took 10 years to get there. My business did not explode. It took 4 years of working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. It didn't just magically happen overnight. I worked twice, if not 3 times as hard as any personal trainer out there, and I'm quite happily confident to say that. You can quite happily ask my wife, you can quite happily ask anyone now who works around me. I live and breathe this. It all comes down to consistency, spreading the right message, and really focusing on helping people. That explosion will happen, but it also comes with patience. Yeah. So look to patiently explode.
It's interesting you say that, because you talk about consistency. I think visibility, insanity, and intensity, these are kind of words that gravitate around this. You've got to keep going even when people don't really understand, or people, sometimes you get on people's backs. People think, oh, you're crushing my timeline, you're just, you're becoming annoying. It's that dynamic we were talking about this yesterday with Warren Ryan, and the fact that, what do you do when people kind of fall out in love with you and you think, oh my God, you're everywhere all the time. But that's what happens. It's the dynamic. People need to break through that piece to see where it's coming from. So I love this whole metaphor of slowly explode your business, because I think, explosion, it can be boom, but then it's what you're left with. You're left with the repercussions of an explosion. There's probably carcasses and all sorts of bits and pieces just flying around. I think this slow explosion thing kind of brings you up to the top, and it kind of keeps you there. So that's some great insights there. I'm going to just go ahead.
Yeah, I think as well, one thing that a lot of people forget to think about and to research is that so many people are so focused on success. So many people love the success stories, especially entrepreneurs and business people, and yet they sweep under the rug the failures. When in actual fact, you don't learn from success. You learn from the things that you failed at. So if you spend more time researching the things that fail rather than the things that succeed, you'll find better patterns in order to create that success. So what I would do is stop. It's important to be motivated by successful people, but look at where people have gone wrong, and also look at the successful people's failures, because I've created a lot of things that haven't been successful. I've created a lot of things that haven't worked, but it was the mindset of understanding that that's a part of the growth and part of the process. The problem with a lot of people is that they'll channel their energy into something, it will fail, and then they'll just give up. And the way that I love to explain that is, in a business, you always need momentum. And the way that I've seen an analogy from a book is you got to imagine yourself like a bike. When a bike is stable, it's wobbly, it's unbalanced. When a bike has momentum, it's very easy to balance and it's easy to go ahead. What happens in your business, and that is when you fail, you stop. You go back to going wobbly, you go back to being unbalanced. We're goal-striving mechanisms. So if you have that stop, don't stop. Keep the momentum and keep going forward.
That's
Once you understand that, then you can accept the failure as a part of life, as a part of growth, and then continue on, because then you've now learned what not to do. And provided that you don't continually do the same thing that caused that failure, you're going to be fine. And it's one thing I say. Well, not I say. I wish I'd come up with this quote, but the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And unfortunately, so many people do that, not only with their business, but with their weight loss too.
Amazing. Catherine Ann's on as well. I've just started my fitness journey after neglecting this area of my life this year. In fact, you and Shah have been one of your inspirations. I think there you go. You've got a fan in the running there, basically. Kua Ilyas, what are some of these habits, Jamie? What are these habits that you form?
Okay, so one thing that I've spoken before with clients, and that is the difference between process and outcome-based goals. When people are setting tasks, they're very outcome-based, i.e., when I get there, I'll be happy. When I'm a stone lighter, I'm going to be a new person, etc., etc., etc. But what happens is an outcome-based goal is that you don't care how you get there, as long as you get there. What happens with process-based goals is that you look at things that you need to do on a daily basis in order to contribute to that goal. So what happens with a process is that you commit to doing 2 to 3 things a day that contribute to that overall goal. The difference is that you will eventually get to that goal, but because you focus on the processes, you know how to get there. So once you're there, you stay there, especially when it comes to weight loss, because you found the process-based things that you can keep consistent with, and consistency equals success. So what I'm getting at with that is my processes in order to maintain my weight is every morning I go for a walk. I go for an hour to an hour and a half walk. It's not about the calorie burn. It's my kind of meditation where I get an audiobook on. I get my thoughts down. I do a Snapchat. Snapchat I use as a kind of a transmit station. So I will come up with an idea. I will start talking to people. I won't receive any messages back. I'm just dropping knowledge bombs and just getting out of my own head. I do that every day. That contributes to obviously me maintaining my weight, because I do burn about 400, 500 calories during that walk. But it's more getting myself into that positive mindset. The second thing that I do is I weigh most of my food. Now, to a lot of people, that sounds quite neurotic, because they're like, oh, you mean to tell me I've got to weigh all my food? Well, no. I mean, at the end of the day, if you've never brushed your teeth in your life and I give you a toothbrush and I say, right, I want you to brush your teeth before you go to bed and when you wake up, you're instantly going to probably forget, because it's something that you've never done before. But what happens now is you wake up and you automatically do it. Just the same as what I do when I weigh my food. I wake up, I walk into the kitchen. The kitchen is my trigger to get a scale out, weigh my food, and I get on with my day. There's no neuroticism or being neurotic about it. It's like driving a car. It's automatic. It happens. And the reason it happens because I've built up that habit of trigger, kitchen, scale, weigh, get on with my day. So for me, I track 80% of my food. I have an app where I use called MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal is great because I more or less swipe. I have more or less the same thing for breakfast. It's very easy when I'm in a shop just to scan the barcode and add it on. I set my little targets. It has something which I like to call gamification, which if anyone knows when it comes to business and that, it's like a little game. I've got a number which I have to hit every day, and when I hit it, great. And MyFitnessPal, when I complete it, goes, congratulations, you win. So when you build up that habit, it becomes a bit of a game, and it also contributes to it, because at the end of the day, what gets measured gets managed. So because I can manage my brain in the morning, because I manage my exercise by by burning 400 to 500 calories, that contributes to my overall health. And because I'm tracking most of my food, I know what's going in. So I have a scale there of where I need to be with regards to my calories. So those two are very subconscious now. I don't wake up and go, oh, I've got to go for a walk. I spring out of bed because I love going for a walk, because I know I downloaded a podcast the night before that I really wanted to listen to, or I've got something really interesting which I want to drop to people on Snapchat. So that in itself helps me with the habit. And the whole tracking thing, literally, like I'm on my phone, it's glued to my hip anyway, so it's not as if anyone notices whether I'm on Facebook or tracking my macros. So
That's fantastic. And I think one of the biggest things that I just picked up on when you talked about the habits, as much as you described your habits there, is the triggers. You've actually put triggers in. So like you said, when you walk into the kitchen, it's a trigger. When you go for your walk, it's a trigger. So part of that habitual part of this is build triggers that will kind of move you into those kind of modes that will enable you to make that into a habit. That I think that's so valuable and so powerful again.
I think as well, it's understanding that whole habit loop. So if everyone's never checked out the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, I highly recommend that you check that book out. And basically what he talks about is that trigger, routine and reward. Once you understand that, you understand good habits and bad habits. You understand how to get rid of bad habits, and you also understand how to create good ones. What happens with bad habits, and the reason that you constantly have those bad habits, is because you get an immense amount of reward from it. When you come back from work and you've had a stressful day and you get a beer out the fridge, you feel pretty good because it's a reward. It's taking time out to have a beer and relax. When you go out for a cigarette, what happens is you get a reward. It de-stresses you. You associate that with the ability to calm down. And this is why it's so hard to change, because it's so nice to do. However, what you've got to understand is that if your goal is something and that's the complete opposite, i.e. that bad habit is causing you not to achieve your goal, then something needs to change. So you've got to understand what's triggering you to do that. Now, most bad habits are triggered by stress. Biting your nails, smoking a cigarette, having a beer. So understanding what is causing that stress. Is it your work? Is it your relationships? Is it things like that? And then understand that there are other ways in order to reduce that stress down that probably are a lot healthier than smoking a cigarette or drinking a beer. Now, I'm obviously saying stop smoking, but I'm not saying stop having a beer. What I'm saying is that when you understand these kind of trigger, the routine that you take and the reward that you get, you can look at potentially not changing the trigger, because you're always going to get that element of stress, but how you deal with it will certainly become better. And it's the same with creating those good habits. As much as changing those bad habits, I have a trigger. So my trigger for going for a walk is waking up. And I know that I've already going to get a reward from it, because I know that warm fuzzy feeling I get when I come back from my walk, that I'm fired up with my brain and I get breakfast. So I have all those rewards in order to contribute to that good habit. When I go into my kitchen, I know that if I weigh my food, that I will stay in very good shape, because I'm maintaining my physique. That makes me happy, that keeps me focused, etc., etc., etc. So I see those triggers, and most importantly, understand those rewards.
Yeah. Can you just repeat the book for me again? What was the book title that you mentioned?
It's the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, Duhigg.
Power of Habits. I'm just writing it into the feed by Charles. Charles, you said, yeah? Yeah,
Charles Duhigg.
Duhigg. Perfect. Okay, let's get some more questions. They're all coming in thick and fast now for you. Okay, Jamie, do you find that macronutrient dieting best for clients?
Yes and no. At the end of the day, when you're talking about macronutrients, you're talking about proteins, fats and carbs. Essentially, you need all three. So yes, macronutrient dieting, no matter what it is that you're doing, you need to do it. One thing that I do say is that you've got to find a diet that covers three things, more than three things. It needs to be sustainable, it needs to be enjoyable, and you need to be able to see yourself doing it a year from now. Right. If anything that you're doing doesn't tick any of those boxes, change it. And the reason I say change it is that it might give you short-term results, but it's not going to give you sustainable and long-term results. And if you think something works because you lose weight, you're sadly mistaken. Something works if you lose the weight and you keep it off. So understand that anything that you have done in the past which has helped you lose weight and you've gained it hasn't worked.
It's actually please carry on. Yeah.
Because then we go back to that definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over again. You're getting what you think is a result, but you're not.
Yeah, I was just going to say, actually, when you just started to talk about that, that's kind of the principle with business and life as well. I think too many people look at look at from a short-term perspective, not the mid to long. They look at short-term gain. They think, right, this is working. So when people go do yo-yo dieting and all this kind of stuff, and then the same kind of applies to business. They apply the strategy. It looks like it's working on the surface. They think that's the way to keep going. They don't really pick up from this. I mean, do you find, and I want to come back and speak to you a little bit more about your gym and stuff very, very shortly. Do you find that, what you just actually said about applying that program of what works and understanding that if you're losing the weight and you can keep it off, that's the system and the process that works for you, applies very much in business as well? If you're doing certain things and it's sustaining, then it's right.
Yes, because there is different circumstances. I mean, I work with a lot of clients who get ready for a photo shoot. Now, the outcome-based goal is more important than the process, because you have an end point where you need to look your best. This is the same as a physique show. So the fundamentals of dieting go out the window, because if you are feeling hungry, if you are feeling tired, tough. Because I want you looking the best you can for that stage. I want you looking the best you can for that photo shoot. So I don't care about you not feeling, comfortable per se. I'm not saying that everyone needs to feel uncomfortable in order to get in photo shoot shape.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that it's a different outcome-based result. Your outcome-based result with your nutrition is the fact that it's sustainable, and the fact that you're not only losing weight, but you're keeping it off,
yeah.
which basically covers 99.99% of the people who are looking for fat loss, because most people aren't doing it for a photo shoot, and most people aren't stepping on a stage in a small pair of pants. So it's very, very different. When it comes to business as well, and as with your physique, it comes down to self-awareness a lot. A lot of great business people, they haven't read many books. They haven't done the 7-step plan to success. They just love what they do, and they're good with people, and they enjoy it, and they're passionate.
Yeah.
And I think with business as well is that you can learn a lot of things. And it all depends on your business, but a lot of it will always come down to those fundamentals: being good with people, going above and beyond what people are doing, and working your bollocks off.
No, absolutely. But I think one thing that I'd like to add to this is the natural fluidity and flow of what you do as well. I mean, yesterday we had Jamie Smart on, and he was talking about clarity and transformation. And he says that at the end of the day, 100% of the factors you think that are affecting you are actually 0% contribution. Yeah! He's already there! See, Jamie, it works!
I've literally got a massive bookshelf. I read Jamie's book, I think it's about 2 years ago, actually. So,
yeah. And I mean, his next book, he's talking about this whole confine of what we think and what we feel is where this comes on from. I mean, when I speak to you, Jamie, now, I just feel that you're in your natural element. There isn't anything that you're trying to be. There isn't anything that you want to be. It's you're in that state of happiness, in that sense, and contentment that this is who I am, this is what I can do, this is the value I want, and I'm doing what I want to do day in, day out. And this whole thing of what you talked about earlier about working and living in your terms, the fact that you can go into the gym whenever you want to, you can work out and do how you want to, when we're talking about work-life balance. I think some people have this misconception that I've got to put 100 hours into my business and hustle the way Gary talks about it, but it's not, what he talks about is not work hard in that sense and throw your life away. It's more of a sense of work smart, so only work hard on the things that are going to drive you a return. And return on investment doesn't just have to be a monetary thing, it can be a value thing in that respect. And I just want to kind of pull back. I just want to pull back in a little bit into your journey on getting the gym up and running. Now, before we came live, I was asking you a little bit about this, and I think, what you've actually gone through in building that gym is very much like someone moving and remodeling a house in that respect. There must have been points where you were thinking, oh my God, why did I do this? And then there are these points of, will it ever get done? And then there's points of the world, is conspiring against me. Jamie, just talk us through, what did you do to overcome those kind of 3 obstacles?
So, I mean, I say, like, we're going back to this kind of explosion. Now, I was meant to have I opened this gym July this year, the first month of July. I was due to open it in November. And what happened around Christmas time is I was competing. I was competing at the European Championships. So I was very, I was very lean. And when you're very lean, your energy's all over the place. I was also moving house, and I was also trying to get this gym off the ground. And what happened is that the planning permission fell through, so I didn't think I was going to get the gym. My house fell through, so that wasn't going ahead, and I had to go to my gym manager and tell him he didn't have a job even after he left. A kind of knock-on effect of everything. First thing I did, I went for a walk. I have to intellectualize a lot of things. So when my kind of coping mechanism, so to speak, the biggest one that I have is basically intellectualization. Sometimes I let emotion take over due to being in the military and that. I have to get a pen and paper, write things down, and try and understand the emotion that I'm feeling. Usually that means going for a 3-hour walk. So what I usually do with things like that, and it's telling to myself, is that it's the same as having a great physique. If it was easy, everyone would have abs. Just the same as if owning a gym facility would be easy, there'd be one on every street corner. Yeah. So it was telling myself that this is part of the story and this is part of the journey. If it works out, fantastic. It's nice to tell my grandkids. If it doesn't, I'm very confident to say at least I tried, because it's so much better than sitting on my deathbed going, oh, I should have done that gym. So one thing that I did was reframe my brain into what's the worst that could happen. And I said, okay, I lose the gym. What do I do then? Okay, I then create another business. I go back to what I was doing. I go back to the laptop lifestyle, which everyone dreams of, etc., etc. What do I do if I don't get my house? I've got quite a nice house. It's not a big drama. I'll just stay in there for another year and wait till I'm a little bit better. And it was just reframing worst case scenario, and then understanding that if the worst did happen, I'm ready for it. What actually happened is that I competed that week, came fourth in Europe. My house went through, and then I got planning permission the week after. So it's like, yay!
I think that, there is that whole thing we talk about in terms of fear and this whole perception that we put into our heads that it's going to be like this, is going to be like this. We can't predict the future. We just kind of almost visualize it, and then you kind of get caught up in that moment. I mean, I love the fact that what you do is you take your thoughts off onto a page. Whatever works for you. Your system is you need to walk it off. You need to get it out onto a page, so it's out of your head in that respect. But it's a little bit like the sort of touch points that I have about those that are really good at giving value and impact in others, but struggle to make their own business work in this respect. And I think what they do is they just constantly focus on the money coming in as opposed to what they're putting through. So this kind of advice where if you're under that kind of pressure, I mean, come on, Jamie. You were talking about building a gym and moving house at the same time. I was just giving that as an example. For crying out loud, you decide to do two things at the same time. I mean, you are nuts. Completely, absolutely nuts.
I like to do things. I like to do things in threes though. So it was competing, moving house, building a gym. This year it's been obviously building the business, writing a book, and pushing a sled for 24 hours. So I like to do them all.
It's
all
crazy. I'm going to take one more question here before we sort of wrap up here. Jeffrey Siegel talks about how do you approach things differently if lean type 2 diabetic. Sorry. So how do you approach it if you're lean type 2 diabetic?
A lot of your diet, you're going to know more about it than me. A lot of it, obviously, type 2 is obviously going to be different because I assume that a lot of it may be health related. So it's a case of, you say a lean type 2. So just trying to get off what it is that you're saying there. So it's all going to be dependent on understanding the individual, where it is that you've come from, the problems that you've had, etc., etc. And that's the exciting thing about fitness and nutrition is that there's no definitive answer to anything. But then that's why also people are scared to give people their advice, because they're like, it's not a one size fits all, and they're worried about giving the wrong advice. But the reality is you don't know everything. I don't know everything. And the advice I could give you could be the wrong advice, because I don't know where you've come from with that. All I know is that you're a lean type 2. Have you always been a lean type 2? Were you an overweight type 2? How did you develop type 2 diabetes, etc., etc.? One thing I would recommend is a good friend of mine, Phil Graham. He's just launched one of the most comprehensive diabetics book. It's called the Diabetics Muscle and Fitness Guide. And it is literally that thick with everything that you need to know when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to your body, when it comes to training for diabetics. So one thing that I always say to people about what makes an expert is an expert doesn't know everything, but he knows a guy who does. And
I love that.
And what happens is when he doesn't know the answer to it, he can recommend someone who does, and that's something that I think a true expert does, because it gets out of that kind of ego of I know everything. It's just like, you will know everything if you surround yourself with those people who are passionate about that. At the end of the day, you go to the doctors, and if he's unsure of a specific thing, I mean, a doctor doesn't know everything. He specializes in one thing.
That's right.
He's either a chiropractor, a gynecologist, etc., etc. And that's something that a lot of people need to do, especially with their business, especially as personal trainers. Be that guy, be that girl. Don't be the kettlebell swinging taekwondo kickboxer. Be that person who gets people ready for stage. Be that diabetic person. Be that other person, because there's going to be a lot of network of like-minded people around you that can pass clients to one another who specialize in that. My own one, whenever I hear anything about diabetics, my mum's type 1 diabetic, so I know a lot about insulin. I know a lot about things like that. However, if I'm giving advice, I want people to go to the best person, and for me it would be Phil Graham, and obviously to check his book out, which he's just launched this week. Amazing.
So we're fast encroaching. We've only got about 2 or 3 minutes left here. Jamie, I want to ask what's next. I mean, you've gone through the powerhouse of getting the gym. You've moved house. You've started your family, and you've got your balanced life out here. You're still you're doing all this charitable stuff as well. Your charity fundraising. You're an immense kind of mindset master in terms of discipline and what you're doing. An all-round cool guy just to hang with. What's next? What's next in Mr. Alderton's schedule?
So the first week of December, I'm launching my book. My book is called Mindset with Muscle, and it's basically how I market is it sets and reps for the brain. So it's using everything that I've learned in the last 4 years to transform your brain, your body, and your business. That's the main focus of the book. It's going through a whole transformational stage, going from finding out about yourself, finding out about productivity, finding out about systems, and then taking action forward. So I'm very excited that book will be launched on Amazon the beginning of December, which I'm hoping, fingers crossed, for a bestseller. That would be a nice end to the year. This Friday I am doing a 24-hour sled push. It's a charity event for St. Wilfrid's Hospice, which they do fantastic work here. They look after the elderly. I looked after my granddad before he passed away, and I'm trying to raise £5,000 to that charity. We're currently at 4,000. If you do want to donate, it's justgiving.com/grenade fit. So I'm going to be putting myself through that on Friday, which is going to be pretty damn exciting. So I'm just getting ready for that. Then we have Christmas, and then we have a new year ready for some brand new digital fat loss programs. One is going to be a home-based workout, which I'm not just saying that is going to be one of the best on the market. We've got a new lean fat loss program coming out, and it's just a case of giving immense amount of value over social media, over in the gym, and online too.
Wow. I mean, just listening to all of that, coming up, it just makes me tired. I mean, I've just put the link on here, justgiving.com/grenade fit. Guys, please support this guy. I mean, look at it. It's just immense. I mean, it's a power pack session. It's been one of our best shows, Jamie. You've had an amazing audience here. You've been truly amazing with your insights here. And it just goes to show that, at the end of the day, it's not just about staying in your lane. Keep it simple. Create those triggers. Force a habit, and you will emerge through and have that kind of slow explosion rather than that big bang theory. And
I think, sorry, Kat, I think the most important thing I want people to take away, and people say this all the time, but just be yourself. Honestly, be yourself, because what happens is when you start being yourself, you'll be the most confident person. Plus, you'll surround yourself with more like-minded people, because the people that gravitate towards you will be the people that you actually either want to work with or be with.
Amazing. Well, look, on behalf of Enterprise Lab and the League of Disruptors Show, thank you very much, Jamie, for coming on board. I hope you guys have really enjoyed that. Don't forget the justgiving.com/grenadefit to go and donate to the program and the sponsorship that Jamie's doing. If any of you are interested to come on to the show at any point in time, we have a registration link. It's enterpriselab.co.uk/LOD. All you've got to do is just fill out the form, and we'll see if we can get you online. But for today, Jamie Alderton, you rock, sir. You rock. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks, Ketan.
Cheers now.